Hello, everyone. My name is Sam, and welcome to Bookish English. Today, I want to share something that changed my life forever. The best way to learn English. I know many of you dream about speaking English fluently, but sometimes it feels so hard, right? You try to remember new words, but they disappear. You listen to people speak fast, and you feel lost. You open your mouth to speak, but the words just don't come out. I understand that feeling because I was exactly the same. When I first started, English felt like a tall mountain that I could never climb. But now I stand here, speaking to you in English with confidence, and I want to show you that you can do it too. You don't need to be perfect. You just need the right way. The best way to learn. When I was a beginner, I made one big mistake. I only studied grammar and memorized vocabulary. I thought that if I knew all the rules, I would speak perfectly. But I was wrong. I knew many words. But when I wanted to speak, my mind went blank. I couldn't connect words into sentences. Then one day, I realized something powerful. English is not just a subject, it's a skill. You don't learn it only by reading books. You learn it by using it. It's like learning to ride a bicycle. You can read about how to ride, but if you never get on the bike, you'll never learn. From that day, I started to use English every day, little by little, step by step, and everything changed. The first thing I did was listen more. I listened to podcasts, songs, and short videos. Even when I didn't understand every word, I kept listening. My brain started to recognize the sound, rhythm, and tone of English. It was like music. Slowly, the language started to feel familiar. Listening helped me learn naturally, just like a child learns their first language. You see, when babies learn to talk, they don't start with grammar books. They listen first. They listen again and again until the words become part of them. That's what you need to do. Fill your ears with English. Listen every day, even for 10 minutes. Then I started talking to myself. Yes, it may sound funny, but it helped me so much. I would walk around my room and describe things in English. I would say, "This is my phone. I am charging it. I am going to call my friend." I practiced daily situations, like ordering food or introducing myself. Talking to myself built my confidence. It made my mouth comfortable with English sounds, and over time, I started thinking in English too. Thinking in English is one of the best ways to become fluent. When you stop translating from your language, your mind becomes faster. You start to speak naturally without fear. Another thing that helped me was shadowing. I watched English videos, and I repeated every line with the speaker. I copied their voice, their tone, and their style. It was like acting. At first, I made many mistakes, but that didn't matter. I focused on rhythm and sound, not perfection. Slowly, my pronunciation became clear, my accent softer, and my confidence stronger. Shadowing made me feel like I was really speaking with someone. I started to enjoy it, and that's when English stopped being a subject and became a part of my life. Reading was another powerful step, but not difficult books. I started with short stories and articles that I understood. I read slowly and out loud. Reading out loud improved my speaking, listening, and even grammar. When you read out loud, your mouth practices while your brain learns sentence structure. It's like hitting 3 targets with 1 arrow. Sometimes I recorded myself while reading and listened again to notice my mistakes. This helped me sound better every time. Writing was also important. Every night I wrote a small diary in English. Just a few lines like, "Today I went to the park. It was sunny. I met my friend." Simple, but effective. Writing helped me organize my thoughts in English. It trained my brain to build sentences. You don't have to write long essays. Just small notes are enough. The key is daily practice. Even 5 minutes a day can make a big difference if you are consistent. I also joined English-speaking groups online. At first, I was shy. My hands shook when I spoke. But soon I realized that everyone was learning just like me. We laughed, made mistakes, and learned together. Speaking with others helped me break my fear. The more I spoke, the more natural it felt. I learned that English is not about being perfect. It's about being brave. Every time you open your mouth and try, you win. Even if you make mistakes, you're improving. Sometimes I didn't feel like studying. I felt tired or lazy. But I told myself, "Sam, just do a little today." And I did. Maybe only 10 minutes, maybe just 1 page. But I never stopped completely. That's the secret. Never stop. Learning English is like growing a tree. You water it a little every day, and one day it becomes strong. If you stop, the tree dries. So keep going, even when it feels slow. I also used English in daily life. When I cooked, I said the names of ingredients in English. When I traveled, I looked at signs in English. When I watched a movie, I tried to understand without subtitles. I made English a part of my world, and slowly it became natural. The best way to learn is not by forcing yourself, but by living with the language. The more you use English in your real life, the faster you learn. There's something else I learned. Don't fear mistakes. When I made mistakes, I used to feel bad. But now I know that every mistake is a teacher. Each mistake shows you where to grow. When you say something wrong, you remember it forever. So don't hide your mistakes. Welcome them. Mistakes mean progress. The only people who don't make mistakes are those who never try. So, my friends, if you truly want to learn English, don't just study it. Live it. Listen, speak, read, and write every day. Make English your friend, not your fear. Remember, learning a language is not about being perfect. It's about expressing yourself, connecting with others, and opening new doors. You can do it. You just have to start and never stop. When I started to see small changes in my English, I felt so happy. The first time I understood a full English sentence in a movie, I smiled. The first time I spoke to someone in English without stopping, I almost cried. It felt like magic. I realized that progress doesn't come in one big moment. It comes in small, quiet ways. Every new word, every simple sentence, every small success builds up slowly. That is why I always tell people who watch Bookish English, don't look for fast results. Look for daily progress. Every day you learn something, you are moving forward. Even if it's just one word, it still counts. There was a time when I felt stuck. I had been learning for months, but I didn't feel like I was improving. I almost gave up. But then I told myself, Sam, you've come so far already. You can't stop now. So I changed my way of learning. I started to make English fun again. I played word games, watched funny shows, and listened to English songs that made me happy. I learned new words from the lyrics. I even sang along. It made learning feel easy and joyful, and slowly, the words I sang became part of my daily speech. That's when I realized that fun is a secret teacher. When you enjoy learning, you learn faster. I remember one moment very clearly. I was at a cafe and a tourist came in. They asked me for directions in English. My heart started beating fast. For a second I was scared, but then I smiled and spoke. I said, "Go straight, then turn left. You will see the park." The tourist smiled and said, "Thank you." That small conversation meant the world to me. It showed me that all my practice was working. Even if my English wasn't perfect, it was good enough to connect with someone. That is the real goal. Communication. Not perfection, not big words, just connection. Every time I spoke to someone in English, I learned something new. I learned new words, new ways to say things, and new confidence. Speaking is like building a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. If you want to get better at speaking English, you must speak, even if it's just to yourself. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait until you know enough. Start now with what you have. Speak small, speak simple, but speak every day. Another thing that helped me was watching short English videos with subtitles. I didn't just watch once. I watched again and again. The first time, I focused on listening. The second time, I focused on reading the subtitles. The third time, I tried to repeat after the speaker. That simple routine improved my listening and speaking together. Over time, my brain started to think in English naturally. I could understand sentences without translating them in my head. That's a big step, when English stops feeling foreign and starts feeling natural. Many people think they need to go to an English-speaking country to learn well. But that's not true. You can create your own English world anywhere. You can learn from your phone, your books, your music, your friends, and even your thoughts. When I couldn't find people to practice with, I practiced alone. When I couldn't travel, I watched travel videos in English. When I couldn't join classes, I used free online lessons. The truth is, you don't need a perfect environment. You just need the right mindset. And your mindset should be simple. Never stop learning. Never stop believing that you can improve. Even on slow days, even on hard days, keep moving. Some days I didn't learn much. Some days I felt lazy, but I told myself, it's okay. Tomorrow I will try again. And I did. Learning English is not a race. It's a lifelong journey. The people who win are not the fastest. They are the ones who never quit. I also learned to focus on small goals. Big goals can feel scary. So instead of saying, I want to be fluent, I said, I want to learn 5 new words today. Or, I want to talk for 2 minutes in English. Small goals are easier and more enjoyable, and when you achieve them, you feel good. That feeling pushes you to do more. It's like climbing a long staircase, one step at a time. Each step matters. When I first started Bookish English, I wanted to help others like me, people who wanted to learn English but didn't know how. I wanted to show that anyone can learn, no matter their age or background. You don't need to be rich or smart or special. You just need patience and practice. I wanted my viewers to feel that they are not alone. We are all learning together. And that's what makes this journey beautiful, the connection we build through words. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was this: don't learn English to be perfect. Learn it to express yourself. That changed everything for me. I stopped worrying about grammar mistakes. I stopped comparing myself to others. I started focusing on communication. If I could make someone understand me, I was happy. The more I spoke freely, the better my English became. It was like magic. The less I feared mistakes, the faster I improved. There were also days when I didn't feel confident, days when I forgot simple words or said something wrong. But I learned to forgive myself. I reminded myself that even native speakers make mistakes. They forget words, too. They say, and sorry. Mistakes are part of every language, so why should I be afraid of them? I learned to laugh at my mistakes. I turned my fear into fun. That made all the difference. And here's another truth. You must practice daily, but you also need to rest. Your brain needs time to absorb what you learn. Sometimes, when I felt tired, I just listened to soft English songs or watched cartoons in English. It still counted as learning, but it was relaxing. English should not feel heavy. It should feel like a friend who grows with you. Over time, English became part of my identity. It became my voice to connect with the world. It gave me new friends, new dreams, and new opportunities. When I looked back, I realized that learning English didn't just teach me a language. It taught me patience, confidence, and hope. As time passed, I began to notice something special happening inside me. English was no longer just something I studied. It became a part of who I was. I started to think in English without forcing myself. When I looked at something, the English word came to my mind before my own language. That felt like a big victory. I realized that this was the real secret. When English becomes a natural part of your daily life, learning becomes effortless. You don't have to force it. It starts to flow. Every time I spoke, read, or listened, it became smoother, easier, and more enjoyable. It felt like I was finally living in English, not just learning it. There were days when I still made mistakes, of course. I remember one day I said something funny by accident, and everyone laughed. For a second, I felt shy. But then I laughed too. That moment taught me that laughter is also part of learning. People don't laugh to hurt you. Sometimes they laugh because it's cute or funny. So never let that stop you. Every mistake brings you one step closer to confidence. Confidence doesn't come from speaking perfectly. It comes from speaking even when you're not perfect. I also learned something very important. You must build a daily routine. I made a small plan for myself. Every morning, I listened to one short English audio clip. During lunch, I read one English article. In the evening, I practiced speaking for 5 minutes. Before bed, I wrote one short paragraph in my English journal. These small habits changed everything. They built consistency. And consistency is the real secret behind success. You don't need to study for hours. You just need to do something small every day. Over time, small efforts become big results. Another great thing that helped me was using English while doing normal things. For example, when I looked around my room, I described what I saw in English. This is a chair. This is my notebook. The fan is spinning. When I cooked, I named the ingredients in English. I'm cutting the tomato. I'm adding salt. It sounds simple, but it trains your brain to think in English all the time. You don't need books for that. You just need curiosity and practice. Watching movies also became my favorite way to learn. But I didn't just watch for fun. I learned smartly. I chose simple movies, turned on subtitles, and repeated interesting lines. I tried to copy the way actors spoke, their tone, their speed, their feelings. It helped me understand that English is not just words, it's also emotion. The way you say something is as important as the words themselves. I learned to use my voice, my face, and even my hands when I spoke. It made my English feel more alive. Music was another teacher. I listened to English songs every day. At first I only enjoyed the melody, but then I started reading the lyrics. I learned new words and phrases that people actually use in daily life. I sang along, and my pronunciation got better. Music made English feel easy, fun, and full of emotion. When I couldn't study hard, I just listened to songs, and I was still learning without pressure. Sometimes, I would also listen to podcasts from English teachers. They shared ideas about pronunciation, grammar, and motivation. Listening to their stories gave me strength. It reminded me that learning English is not just about the language, it's about growing as a person. It teaches patience, discipline, and self-belief. I started to believe that if I could learn English, I could do anything. I also noticed that learning English improved my thinking. I became more confident in expressing my ideas. I became more open-minded because English connected me to people from all around the world. I could listen to stories from different countries, cultures, and lives. That made me see the world in a new way. English became my window to the world. Through it, I learned not only words, but wisdom. There was one time when I joined an online group chat with people from many countries: India, Brazil, Japan, and Egypt. We all spoke English, even though it wasn't our first language. And you know what? Nobody cared about mistakes. We laughed, learned, and shared ideas. That moment made me realize how powerful English is. It connects people who would never meet otherwise. It's like a bridge between hearts. That day, I felt proud. I thought, wow, my English is helping me make friends across the world. That feeling was priceless. Of course, not every day was easy. Some days I felt tired or frustrated. Some days I wanted to give up. But every time that thought came, I told myself, Sam, remember why you started. I wanted to grow, to explore, to communicate, to be free. I didn't want fear to stop me, so I kept going. I reminded myself that slow progress is still progress. Even if I learned one small thing that day, it was still worth it. One of the most beautiful things about learning English is that it changes how you see yourself. When I first started, I was shy. I doubted my ability. But now, I feel strong. I feel capable. I can speak, express, and connect. English didn't just give me a language, it gave me confidence. It gave me a new voice. And every person who learns English will discover that same power inside them. So if you are learning English right now, I want to tell you this. Don't worry if you're slow. Don't worry if your grammar isn't perfect. Don't worry if people don't understand you sometimes. It's all part of the journey. Keep practicing. Keep speaking. Keep believing in yourself. Every word you learn, every sentence you speak, is bringing you closer to fluency. One day, you will look back and realize how far you've come, and you will smile with pride. I started to feel proud of myself. Every small success made me happy. When I understood a grammar rule that I didn't understand before, it felt like a little victory. I began to enjoy studying grammar. I no longer saw it as something boring. I saw it as a game. Every sentence I fixed, every mistake I caught, was like winning points in that game. I began to believe that grammar was not my enemy. It was my helper. It was helping me to speak better and write better. The more I learned, the easier English became. Sometimes I made silly mistakes. I would laugh at myself and move on. I didn't get angry anymore. I learned that mistakes are not bad. They are part of learning. Every time I made one, I understood the rule more deeply. When I stopped being afraid of mistakes, grammar stopped being scary. I started to notice patterns in English. For example, I realized that many grammar rules repeat. I noticed that once you learn one tense, you can understand others easily. For example, if you know present simple, then past simple becomes simple too. I realized English grammar is like a family. Each part is connected to another. One day, I tried to write a small story using all the grammar I had learned. I wrote slowly and carefully. I checked each sentence, and I asked myself, is this correct? I used past tense, present tense, and even future tense. When I finished, I read it again. It was not perfect, but it was clear. I could see my progress. I smiled because I had done it all by myself. I realized something very important that day. Grammar is not about rules only. It's about expressing your thoughts clearly. After that day, I made grammar part of my daily life. I didn't just study it in a book. I used it in everything. When I watched English videos, I listened carefully to how people used grammar. I noticed how they said, "I've been waiting," instead of "I wait." I paid attention to small details. I tried to copy their sentence patterns. When I wrote something, I used the same structure. Slowly, grammar became natural for me. It started to live inside my brain. I didn't need to think too hard anymore. Another big change happened when I started teaching grammar to my friends. I was not a teacher, but I explained what I learned to others. When my friends asked me, "What is the difference between has and have?" I explained it in simple words. Teaching helped me remember everything better. When you explain something to someone, you understand it deeply. So I made it a habit. I helped others, and at the same time, I helped myself. There were still days when I got tired or confused. Sometimes I mixed up tenses or used wrong prepositions. But I didn't stop. I reminded myself that mastering grammar takes time. You can't do it in 1 week or 1 month. It's a long process. So I stayed patient. I focused on progress, not perfection. I celebrated small steps. As months passed, I could feel the difference. My writing became smooth. My speaking became clear. People started to say, "Your English sounds better now." Those words gave me motivation to continue. I realized that grammar is like the backbone of English. Without it, your sentences may fall apart. But when you master it, everything stands strong. Now, when I read English books, I understand grammar naturally. I don't think about rules consciously. I just feel them. I can sense when a sentence is wrong even before I check it. That's the result of practice. That's how grammar becomes a part of you. Sometimes I look back at my old notebooks. I see all the notes, all the mistakes, all the corrections. It reminds me how far I have come. It wasn't an easy road, but it was worth it. Grammar gave me power. It gave me confidence. It gave me a new way to express myself. And that's how I mastered English grammar. Not by memorizing, not by rushing, but by understanding, practicing, and loving it step by step. After some time, I started to notice something new. Grammar was not only helping me understand English better, it was changing the way I spoke and wrote. When I talked to people in English, my sentences began to sound more natural. Before I used to stop and think, "Is this correct?" But now, the words came out smoothly. I didn't have to plan every sentence. Grammar had become a part of my thinking. It was like a quiet voice inside my head guiding me. I didn't force it. It just happened naturally because of practice. When I wrote messages or emails in English, I felt more confident. I no longer worried about small mistakes. I used to be afraid that people would laugh if I wrote something wrong. But now, I was sure about my sentences. I could explain things clearly. I could share my thoughts easily. Writing became enjoyable. I started keeping a daily English journal. Every night before bed, I wrote about my day. Sometimes just a few sentences, sometimes a whole page. It became a habit. And I used that time to play with grammar. I tried new sentence structures. I used conditionals like, "If I study every day, I will improve." I used past tense to describe my day and future tense to write my plans. This simple exercise helped me so much. Then I started to notice grammar in everything I read or heard. When I watched a movie, I paid attention to how characters spoke. I noticed they didn't always follow the book grammar, but I understood why. Spoken English is flexible. It has rhythm and emotion. I realized grammar rules give structure, but real English also has feeling. That's when I began to balance both, the rules and the rhythm. One day, I had to write a short essay for an online English class. The topic was my favorite memory. I wrote it using all I had learned. I used proper tenses, connectors like however and because, and made sure every sentence was clear. When I submitted it, the teacher said, "Your writing is strong and natural." That feedback made me so proud. I knew I was improving not by luck, but by effort. Still, I didn't stop learning. Grammar is deep. Even native speakers learn new things. I started reading grammar blogs and watching videos by English teachers. I learned about advanced grammar, things like relative clauses, modals, and perfect tenses. At first, they looked difficult, but because I already had a strong base, I could understand them step by step. I didn't rush. I read examples, I wrote my own sentences, and I practiced speaking them out loud. Sometimes I played a little game with myself. I would take one grammar rule each day and focus on using it in sentences. For example, one day I would practice used to, another day present perfect. I would make 10 sentences for each and say them aloud. It was simple but powerful. That daily routine made grammar a living thing in my mind. Then came the biggest change, my confidence when speaking English with others. Before, I was shy. I used to say only simple sentences because I was afraid to make mistakes. But as grammar became natural, I started using longer and more expressive sentences. I could say exactly what I wanted. I didn't feel lost anymore. People began to say, "Your English sounds very clear." That one sentence made me so happy because clarity was my goal. I didn't want to sound fancy, I just wanted to be understood. And grammar helped me do that. As time went on, I also noticed that grammar helped me think better in English. I didn't need to translate from my native language anymore. My thoughts began forming directly in English. This was a big step. When you stop translating, you become fluent. Grammar gave my thoughts a structure, a shape, a rhythm. I could organize ideas easily. It made communication faster and smoother. I started helping other learners online. Many of them said, "Grammar is so hard," and I told them, "It's only hard when you see it as rules. But if you see it as a language of ideas, it becomes easy." I shared my method. Learn a rule, use it in life, repeat it daily, and never be afraid of mistakes. I told them how I made grammar part of everything: reading, writing, speaking, and even listening. Slowly, I began to see myself not as just a learner, but as a guide for others. I wasn't perfect, but I was growing. I learned that mastery is not about knowing everything. It's about understanding deeply and using what you know confidently. Grammar gave me that confidence. Now, when I write or speak, I don't worry about grammar anymore. It's already inside me. It has become like a friend walking beside me, making sure my words stand strong. I don't memorize rules now. I use them naturally. It took time, patience, and daily effort, but the result is amazing. I feel free when I speak English. I feel powerful when I write. And this freedom came from grammar, the same thing that once scared me. That's why I always tell learners, don't run away from grammar. Make it your friend. Learn it slowly, live it daily, and soon it will help you shine. After some months of practice, something magical started to happen. I noticed that my thoughts were no longer coming in my native language first. They were coming directly in English. It felt strange at the beginning, but also beautiful. I would walk down the street, see something, and think, the sky looks so clear today. I didn't translate that sentence. It just came to my mind naturally. That was when I realized that grammar was helping me think in English. Before that, I used to think word by word. I would build sentences slowly, like solving a puzzle. But now, sentences came out smoothly and naturally. Grammar had trained my brain to organize thoughts in the right way. It felt like my brain had switched to English mode. I didn't even notice when it happened. It came slowly, silently, through practice. When I read books, I didn't stop at every line anymore. I could understand full paragraphs without thinking about each rule. The sentences made sense because my brain already understood the grammar behind them. I didn't have to analyze everything. I just felt the meaning. That's what real fluency means. Not just knowing words, but feeling the structure of the language. I remember one night, I was writing in my English journal. I wrote 2 full pages without thinking about grammar once. When I finished, I read it again, and I was surprised. Everything was correct. The tenses were right, the prepositions were fine, and the sentences were clear. I didn't use a grammar checker. I didn't open a book. It all came from my memory. That night I smiled and whispered to myself, I did it. I can really write in English now. The next day I spoke to a foreign friend online. We talked for almost 30 minutes in English. During the conversation I used many tenses, past, present, future, and even conditionals. I didn't pause. I didn't feel nervous. The conversation flowed naturally. When the call ended, my friend said, "Your English sounds so natural now." Those words meant the world to me, because I knew deep down that grammar was the key that opened this door. I also noticed that grammar made me a better listener. Before, I used to hear English and get confused when people spoke fast. But after understanding grammar, I could catch the meaning easily. Even if I missed a word, I could guess the rest because I understood the structure. For example, when someone said, "If I had known, I would have come earlier," I could instantly understand the meaning because I knew the conditional form. Grammar turned listening into understanding, not guessing. One beautiful change that grammar brought into my life was confidence. I stopped being afraid of English. I stopped worrying about being wrong. I started enjoying the process. I even began reading English articles, stories, and blogs just for fun. I underlined sentences that I liked and tried to write similar ones. I made English a part of my everyday life. Then one day, I decided to take a big step. I started writing short stories in English. I had always loved writing, but I never had the courage before. Now, with grammar on my side, I felt ready. I wrote my first story called The Day I Met Confidence. It was simple, but it was mine. When I finished it, I read it out loud. It sounded smooth. The sentences connected well. Grammar gave my story life. After that, I kept writing more. Every story helped me improve more and more. My grammar became stronger without me even realizing it. I didn't sit down to study rules anymore. I learned by using them. I learned by living them. That's how grammar became my teacher, not through memorization, but through experience. When I talked with others, I could feel the difference in my tone and expression. I could express feelings more accurately. I could say exactly what I wanted to say, and that made me feel powerful. For example, I could say, "I've been waiting for this moment for so long," instead of just, "I wait." That little difference made my sentences more meaningful. That's the beauty of grammar. It adds life, time, and emotion to your words. As I continued my journey, I also realized something deeper. Grammar didn't just teach me English, it taught me patience, focus, and discipline. It taught me that small steps every day lead to big results. It showed me that learning is not about speed, but consistency. Some days I didn't study much, but I never stopped completely. I always kept a small connection with English, reading a few lines, writing a short paragraph, or listening to a podcast. That was enough to keep my grammar sharp. Years later, I looked back and realized how far I had come. I remembered the days when grammar felt like a mountain I could never climb. And now, that mountain felt like a gentle path I had walked with time and love. I realized that mastery is not about perfection, it's about comfort. It's when you feel at home with what once felt difficult. Now, when someone asks me, "How did you master English grammar?" I smile and say, "I didn't just study it. I lived it." Because grammar is not just rules and charts, it's a way of thinking. It's the bridge between thoughts and words. It's the art of making your ideas clear and beautiful. And today, when I speak or write, I don't worry about grammar anymore. It's always there, quietly guiding me, softly supporting me, like a friend who never leaves. After I reached that point where grammar became natural, I started to notice something unexpected. Grammar didn't just make me better at English, it made me more creative. Before, I used to think grammar was something that limited creativity, something full of strict rules. But now, I saw the opposite. Grammar was giving me freedom. It allowed me to build sentences in many different ways. It gave me more choices to express one idea in several styles. It was like having a box of colors, and I could use them however I wanted. When I wrote stories, grammar helped me shape emotions. If I wanted to make something sound strong, I used short and clear sentences. If I wanted to sound dreamy or soft, I used longer sentences with gentle connectors. For example, I walked alone in the quiet evening, thinking of the days that had gone by. That one sentence showed feeling, time, and flow, all because of grammar. I realized that grammar is not only about being correct, it's about expressing meaning in a beautiful way. I also started experimenting with writing styles. Sometimes I wrote in the past tense, sometimes in present, sometimes I mixed them to create a story effect. I learned how changing tenses could change emotion. For example, "I was walking" felt different from "I walk." One was memory, The other was life happening now. Grammar gave me the power to play with time. That made me feel like an artist painting with words. When I read English novels, I started seeing grammar in a new light. I saw how great writers used it. I noticed their sentence patterns. I saw how they used commas, connectors, and tenses to guide feelings. I realized every line had a rhythm. Every rule had a purpose. It made me respect grammar even more. One night, while reading a book, I came across a sentence that stayed in my mind. She had been waiting for him all her life. I thought about that tense. Had been waiting. It was perfect. It showed time, pain, and hope together. I tried to write my own sentences using the same form. I wrote, I had been waiting for my English to flow like water, and now it finally does. That one line made me emotional because it was true. Grammar gave me the words to describe my own journey. Slowly, I started to write deeper thoughts. I didn't just write about my day anymore. I wrote about life, dreams, and feelings. Grammar helped me express complicated emotions in simple English. For example, when I wanted to describe peace, I wrote, I have learned that silence is also a kind of music. When I wanted to describe patience, I wrote, I am still walking step by step, and the road is still teaching me. Grammar gave structure to my heart's voice. It also helped me in other areas of life. When I wrote job applications or official emails, I could express myself clearly and politely. People started to notice my writing. They said, Your English is so clean and natural. That made me proud, but also thankful. Thankful for every small moment I spent learning grammar years ago. It was paying off now in big ways. I also began writing online posts to share my experiences with English learners. I wrote about the struggles, the confusion, the fear, and the small victories. My posts got attention because they were simple and clear. I didn't use hard words, but I used good grammar. That made my writing strong. People started asking me for advice. Some even said my words motivated them to study again. That was one of the happiest moments of my journey. Grammar had not only changed my English, it had given me a voice that could help others. Sometimes I looked at my old self, the one who was afraid of grammar, who thought it was impossible. I wished I could go back and tell that version of me, don't be scared. One day, these same rules will become your best friends. I realized that grammar was never the enemy. The real enemy was fear and impatience. Once I learned to relax and enjoy the process, everything became easier. Grammar also taught me something spiritual. It showed me that every big thing in life is built from small parts, just like sentences are built from small words. You can't skip steps. You must build slowly, carefully, and with love. The beauty comes from balance, from connection, from understanding how everything fits together. Grammar is like life, full of patterns and lessons if you are willing to see them. Now, when I write or speak, I don't think about rules. I think about connection. Grammar became the invisible bridge between my thoughts and others' hearts. It made communication pure and meaningful. I could express sadness, hope, excitement, or peace, all through well-structured sentences. That's why I always tell learners, grammar is not about being perfect. It's about being understood. It's about sharing your soul in a clear way. When your grammar grows, your expression grows. You don't just speak English, you create English. And the more I used it, the more I loved it. English grammar became like music to me. Every tense a note, every word a sound, every sentence a melody. Sometimes I even sat quietly and thought in English just to enjoy the flow of sentences in my mind. It was peaceful. It was beautiful. It was freedom.